Hello, superstar. Welcome. In this video, I'm going to share with you how to embody your feminine energy so that you can create more grace, ease, and flow in your life. I'm going to start this video with a little bit about the sources of my inspiration for this video, where I've learned a lot of what I've learned about this topic. Then I'm going to get into a brief overview of the distinction between feminine and masculine energy. I'll talk about what the problem has been in terms of women fully embodying their feminine energy. We'll talk about what does embodiment even mean? And then finally, how to increase the embodiment of feminine energy, certain particular specific practices and skills that you can develop. Let's go. So first, a little bit about some of the sources of inspiration here and where I've pulled some of this learning from. So I spent many years very, very well embodying my masculine energy. Straight A student, I went to an Ivy League school, was very competitive, got to the top of my profession. So I really learned well how to compete in a male world. But what I lost touch with was my feminine side. When I started working with a mentor recently, or not recently, it was about almost a decade ago, he introduced me to a lot of these feminine people practices, skills, philosophies that I've been learning from over the years. So one of those very first influences was a woman named Alison Armstrong, and she wrote some books called The Queen's Code and The Keys to the Kingdom, and I learned a lot from her early on. In addition to that, I also read books about masculinity, one of which was called The Way of the Superior Man by a guy named David Deida. I also read Women Who Run with the Wolves by Clarissa Pinkola Estes, and several books in that genre about the archetypal wild woman. And then finally, one of my biggest influences has been Nani Leah Diamond. She created something called Sacred Feminine Leadership. I actually interviewed Nani Leah in one of my podcasts. So when you're done with this video, I invite you to check that out by clicking on the link below. You can hear my interview with her about the Sacred Feminine Blueprint. And that's not all. There have been a lot more influences, but those are some of the primary ones that I wanted to give some credit to before I go on. So let's talk about what is masculine and feminine. And to be clear, I'm not actually referring to the gender in this context. I'm referring to sort of an energetic primarily, and knowing that both men and women carry both masculine and feminine energies within them, and that sort of thing is more fluid than probably we realize. But essentially, there is a masculine energetic, a feminine energetic, and just to be safe here, I'm going to use the terms yang and yin energy. So the yang is what is commonly associated with the masculine, and yin is what's commonly associated with the feminine. The yang energy, and this is in an Eastern tradition, these terms, yang is outwardly focused. It's directive, it's structured, it's usually more fast-paced, more competitive type of energy, whereas the yin energy is a little bit, it's slower paced, it's more stillness, it's what we call the mystery, it's the unknown, whereas the world of the yang is the known world, the concrete world, the tangible. The feminine is more of the unknown, the mystery, the dark, right, to the light. The light, the sun shines the light. The sun is considered a yang energy, shines the light, illuminates and makes things known, versus the moon and the darkness, the nighttime, is where things are more mysterious, more unknown. I call it dancing with the mystery and really starting to allow ourselves to be with what we don't understand or don't know. So yang energy, one thing to really bring it home to understand the different energetic of these two is something that I learned from Nani Leah, which is about, if you consider the most basic biological expression of yang, of the masculine, it's sperm. And if you think about how sperm operates, I know this is a touchy subject, is fast-paced, it's focused, it's directed, it's competitive. There are millions of sperm funneling forward to try to reach this one goal, the egg, and there can only be one winner to fertilize the egg. So that's very much kind of a encapsulation of the quintessential masculine energy. Now, on the other hand, we've got the egg, which is the quintessential feminine energy. The egg doesn't do anything. The egg doesn't really move that much at all. She travels a short distance and she does it very slowly over a couple of days. She doesn't chase after the sperm. She doesn't hit the sperm over the head and say, over here. She just waits and she is receptive. And actually what we know now from the latest science, which is wild, is that the egg actually sends out a call to the sperm, an acoustic signal. An acoustic wave is what calls the sperm toward her. And actually, we also know that she receives the sperm, but she also decides which one, or not decides, but there's an allowing of one particular sperm to enter all the way in. So it's a really interesting way to look at yang, masculine, yin, feminine, from a perspective that's very much rooted in biology and the miracle of conception. And think about it, when these two energies come together is when life is created. It's not about the domination of one over another. It's not about one being better than the other. It's about these two integrating and creating life, creating something new. And that's how I approach feminine and masculine, yang and yin and yang energy in the world of life, in the world of business. It's like, how are we integrating these two? And so the problem that we face, or that I observe, this is my opinion, is that over the course of the last, few thousand years, really about 10,000 years or so, the masculine has really dominated over the feminine. The ways of the masculine have suppressed a lot of the natural ways of the feminine. The masculine has imposed itself onto the earth, has, agriculture, has created all these structures, these civilizations, these cities, mostly led by the masculine. I'm not saying that women had no part in it or that they didn't contribute or there wasn't any integration there. There has been, obviously. And it's been primarily masculine domination over the feminine. And what we've seen over the last 100 years is the feminine rising. But in order for the feminine to rise, she has had to bust through certain constraints. And that has required actually taking on some of the energetic of the masculine to bust through, to build that kind of energy to say, enough of this. We take our power back. We deserve the right to vote. We deserve the right to be in the workplace, right? And by doing that and busting our way in, what's happened is that the feminine has had to adopt many of the ways of being of the masculine, right? I know that for myself, when I went to college and I graduated afterwards, I was very competitive. I was very focused on winning, on being the best, taking on a lot of these more yang energetics, right? Of fast paced and getting a lot done and building and creating and making decisions and being very focused without a lot of the yin, without a lot of the mystery, without a lot of the slowing down, without a lot of the receiving, without a lot of the nurturing. And so the problem is that what happens is now we've got a world that's very much dominated by the masculine, and even the feminine has, to some degree, in my opinion, forgotten what its essence is, forgotten its nature, but not completely. We see videos like this and books like Allison's and work like Nani Leia's starting to really come forward and rise. And we're starting to see even in the corporate environment where people are starting to, the research, even Harvard has published articles saying, what if these feminine qualities are actually what companies need right now? What if this emotional intelligence, what if these qualities that are very much part of that feminine nature are actually what's going to help us get forward to that next level of society, of consciousness, of evolution? So it's really interesting. There's a lot of work happening around this right now, a lot of attention being placed on it. And so this video is all about, what do you do? How can you develop this inside of yourself? And maybe even how can you bring more of this to the world? The next thing to address is, what is embodiment? What does it mean to embody something? What does it mean to embody feminine energy? Well, embodiment is the difference between just knowing something and actually living it. It's the living of a truth. It's the living of a certain way of being. And so we can understand that the world needs more of this feminine energy, that companies need more of this feminine energy. That can be a very conceptual thing. And in fact, in the world, it tends to be very conceptual. We need more women in the workplace, but that's still very conceptual. What about the embodiment? What does that mean to have more feminine energy, more of this yin energy in the workplace? Well, it looks like the women actually tapping into that core feminine nature that I was talking about. It looks like developing certain practices and certain skill sets. So here's a few of those practices and skill sets. The first is the idea of receptivity. So the yin, the egg also, is receptive. It receives. And a lot of people in general, men and women, could stand to benefit from this, are not willing to receive. They're so defended, they're so shut down, they're so closed off that they can't even receive when other people or the universe or the divine is offering something to them. And so developing receptivity is about allowing. It's about allowing people to be who they are. It's about allowing circumstances and situations to be what they are. It's about allowing oneself to be, some people put it on the river of life, like flowing like a river, rather than paddling upstream to fight life, but rather sitting back and flowing with life and allowing life to be what it is without judgment, without shaming it, without complaining about it. And so one of the practices that can support developing receptivity is stillness, is slowing down, getting quiet, and just listening. Deep listening is another way to put it, where we slow down and not just listen to other people, which that's part of it, but also, more importantly, I would say, it's slowing down and listening to yourself. It's listening to your own heart's desires. It's listening to your intuition. It's listening to the little voice in your head that knows, right? But that we rarely slow down and get quiet enough to hear. By the way, if you're liking this, before I get to the rest of the practices, I invite you to subscribe to this channel, click the like button, even add your own comments below and see. I'd love to know about how this lands for you. Another thing that really supports developing and embodying feminine energy, in my opinion, is meditation. Now, I do regular eyes closed meditation pretty much every day for at least 10 minutes a day, if not 20. My mentor, Nanilea, who I've told you about, she also recommends doing open eye meditation for really tapping into more of the feminine. I remember her telling me once that the closed eye meditation draws focus in and narrows it, which is more of a masculine approach to meditation, whereas an open eye meditation expands out and creates more awareness. And in particular, one type of meditation that she has taught me and that she practices and that I practice is called empty presence. And that's open eye meditation and just being with whatever is. And that looks like it can be with a candle. It could be with some sort of spiritual place. It could be with yourself in the mirror looking into your own left eye. So those are some practices to develop that relationship with yourself and that relationship with the divine feminine. Another practice that has really served me is to take on something that really triggered me in the beginning, which is yin yoga. Now, when I first started yoga, it was all about like the very masculine approach to yoga, a very yang approach. Like, I'm going to get this right. I need to get these poses. I need to figure it out. I need to be able to hold it longer, have better balance. It was all about winning yoga. When I got to my first yin yoga class, it was like, this is so boring. I mean, I hate this because I had such a trigger, such a hard time with slowing down and getting still. So yin yoga is very slow yoga, and generally you relax into poses where you stay for even minutes at a time, 10, 15, even 20 minutes in one pose. But they're like relaxing poses. And then oftentimes you use props or you use equipment to help you really relax all the way into a pose. And now I love yin yoga. I leave one of those classes and I just feel like, oh, I'm so receptive, so open, so available to life and to whatever life wants to live through me. And then finally, and certainly not least, is community. Tapping into the feminine, embodying the feminine, really it helps to be in community with other women doing the same work, or even men. Men can tap into their feminine and embody their divine feminine nature as well, just probably not all the time, right? The idea is to be in community where people are looking at this, where they're open to this, where they're talking about this, where they're exchanging stories and best practices, and people are witnessing the evolution in each other. I think one of the most powerful things you can do is find a community of people who are on this path and who understand this kind of work and who can support you in getting there. I hope you found this video interesting. If you're a coach, a consultant, a speaker, an author, other expert, and you're looking to embody more of this feminine energy in your business so that you can have more grace, more ease, more flow, let's connect, and maybe I can help you. You can find me at superstardiscoverycall.com or just click on the link below.